Good morning, traders and investors around the world, and welcome to Friday's edition of premarketinfo.com, where we prepare you for the most important hour of the day, the first hour. Good morning. 9-point range in the S&Ps this morning, making a low at 1310.75 and a high at 1319 and a quarter.
Yeah, Joel, just quiet here this morning, though. We've had a lot of earnings report, but surprisingly, the market really isn't moving around a lot. Maybe that isn't that surprising since we have a GDP number coming out at 8:30. But we do have some big reports here this morning. We'll get to them in a few minutes.
Okay, Globex high stands at 1319 and a quarter, just below Wednesday's close, which has been the high close of the move so far. If that stands as a high of the day, we have a downside target at 1303.50, would take us down to Tuesday's low. Current low stands at 13.5, just kind of in the middle of the nowhere. Don't have a significant number in that area. If that holds as a low of the day, we have an upside target of 1327. Moving on to the Big Ten, Dennis. Kind of a quiet day yesterday in the oils. ExxonMobil was unable to reach Monday's high of 87.94, stopping at 87.71. I know you've been talking a lot about that $88 level, so that stands as major resistance just below the 52-week high. Coming back on the downside, 86.51 low with a 73 close. Didn't really get much of a bounce there off ExxonMobil. Trading very close to the low. Below that, we have a drop down to Wednesday's low at 85.81.
Yeah, Joel, it got up to as high as 87.71. Not quite high enough. I was selling in the 87.90s, or 87.80s, didn't quite get there to get me. Somebody was aggressive. They may have got a decent short off there. There has actually been no trades on ExxonMobil this morning. It has bid up a couple of cents, but really no trades. I think it's probably muted action, considering we're supposed to have a Chevron CVX earnings report coming out soon, so maybe the ExxonMobil trading is waiting to hear that number.
Okay, Apple Computer couldn't hold that 448 level that we talked about yesterday. Sold off, took out Wednesday's low, Dennis, 443.73, going down to 443.14. Probably suckered some people in on the short side there, and then bounced up to close 444.63. That's minor support, so come back on the first test, look for a little bounce there. But let's call that whole 443 area, Dennis, trying to break down to that area to fulfill the gap. First stop on the upside would be 448.79, which was Thursday's high.
Yeah, a little pullback day for Apple. Not surprising considering how far it had ran up or had gapped up the day before off the earnings report. So it's not surprising that this gets a little bit of profit taking the next day. I definitely think you keep an eye on that 443.14 low from yesterday. If that can hold, and then maybe you can continue to try to move higher. But if it breaks down from there, you've just got to watch those longs.
Okay, IBM kind of busted through that double top there, 192.24 to got up to 192.73. Certainly didn't hold up there very long. Came back, sold off, made a low at 190.47, so I call that minor support at a low at 190.98. Trading up 64 cents here in the pre-market, so maybe it's going to make another run at that 193 level.
Yeah, just an odd lot going by there, though. Best offers at 190.120, so it's not up really too much. I don't really put much in those odd lot trades, but looking at this, if this stock starts to go up here, 193 looks pretty big to me just from a size perspective. I do see some size there. But the major resistance is this 194.90, which is the 52-week high, and that's still over $4 away from here. So I'm not sure that'll come into play today. But you never know. A GDP number coming out is a pretty crazy market. So keep an eye on that number if it does go into rally mode.
Okay, Chevron Corporation due to announce earnings this morning. And consolidating here basically between the 106.50 level and the 108 level. Got up to 108.57 yesterday, which was close to the 11-day high of 108.68. So that 108.50 level will be major resistance. Kind kind of settled down near the low of the day at 106.35 low with a 106.59 close. If you can't hold that 106.35, Dennis, I'm looking for 105. 105.09 was Wednesday's low.
I mean, the stock's sitting here muted trade, waiting on its earnings report. At least I think it's supposed to report earnings here, Joel. I checked a couple of earnings calendars, and it's on there. Usually it comes out at 8 a.m., and it's not out yet. So I don't know if they're just delaying the report or what's happening there. But anyways, regardless, follow the numbers. Joel's giving you a good one down there at 105. If it does go into rally mode for whatever reason, this 110.99 is a 52-week high, and that 111 was just huge. So there's big high-frequency resistance up in the 110s.
Okay, Microsoft kind of digesting the move from the earnings move there, consolidating here between the 29.07 level and 29.70. Have a potential double top here, 29.65 to 29.70. You also have that backed up by Monday's high at 29.95. Tight range in that stock yesterday. 29.40 was the low with a 50 close. Below that 29.40, I test the low of the week so far, 29.07.
Starting to drift up here again yesterday. You got to think it's going to maybe give that a second shot, that 29.95 52-week high. If it does, that would be the second time up there. I still think you're going to get some pretty decent resistance. Above 30, then all bets are off. I'd probably get a little more bullish if this broke out above that 30 area.
Okay, GE just trading the daylights out of this 1925 to 1927 level. Got up there again yesterday, gave a nice head fake with the market that it was going through, and then drifted down, made a low at 1898. So that should be your minor support today with a close at 1907. But this thing just doesn't want to get above this 1927 level, Dennis.
Yeah, 1920 to 1930. There's just resistance all over the place in there. We were calling it 1925. It sniffed above there to 1927, maybe to sucker a couple people. And then, actually it opened right up there into that resistance and just kind of went straight down, Joel. So, I don't know. It's still giving you resistance up there. Continue to do the trade as it works. If you're selling the 1920s, it's worked a few times. I'd continue to do it until it doesn't work anymore.
Okay, Procter & Gamble, I believe they reported earnings today. Do not see a whole lot going on in the pre-market. Was able to bust through Wednesday's high. 65.15 was Wednesday's high. Got up to 65.38. So you'll be running resistance all the way up that 65.5 level. Coming back on the downside, closed 7 cents off the low at 64.80. So now with the stock trading lower, that's going to be good resistance. 64.80 the close, and the big number on the downside, Dennis, is 64.04 to 18. Tuesdays and Wednesdays low. This stock has just been kind of plateauing here, and I think finally a break below 64 here could signal finally a move down, perhaps back down to 61.
Check the pre-market quotes there, Joel. At 7 a.m., I don't have it on my screen right now, but if you can check it while I'm doing my piece, I think it got down to as low as 63.5 on the initial report. It really spiked down on the report and then popped right back up, and then it was trading around 64 for a good 20-30 minutes this morning. So that 64 was giving support again, and then it bounced back up and actually got flat. Now it's come back down. It's trading 64.50, but maybe Joel can enlighten us on what that low was there. Did you get that number, Joel, from this morning?
Yeah. I had to check my chart here, and it did spike down. It spiked down in the low 63s here. It looks like it got to 63.38.
I think that was just overdone, though, for sure, because it spiked right back. So
yeah, it did some. But then, interestingly, Dennis, after that, it just came back up to test the close here at 64.80, and then now it's kind of drifting close. I think that's 64. If you get a chance to short that thing in the 64.70s, perhaps with a stop over 65, that'd be a great swing area today. But it looks like Procter & Gamble, at least in the pre-market, gave it up a little bit.
Right.
AT&T, Dennis, that thing really got whacked yesterday. It opened lower, then had to bounce back up to that 30 level. So I imagine 29.98 to that 30 level is going to be huge again. Coming on the downside, we made a low at 29.38. That coincides with the low we had back on December 22nd at 29.30. So that's major support. Below that, we have the $29 level.
There was some interesting trading going on. This is one where if you were watching the pre-market trade and knowing your levels, you could have got off a pretty good short there right near the open yesterday, because this thing in the pre-market had traded down to 29.5, and it was like a magnet. It traded there for a good half an hour, about an hour before the open. Then it started to drift up and opened, probably just because that's where it had the designated market maker had put the opening print together, up at 29.90, and then ran as high as 29.98, and then straight back down to that 29.5 where it was trading in the pre-market earlier. So the pre-market area kind of gave you a tell, and you knew that 29.5 was a big number, so it was a decent chance to get short on that open. This 29.5 continues to remain a type of magnet here. It's 29.54 this morning, but that's still the big support area, even though we took it out at 29.38 yesterday.
Okay, J&J had a pretty good day yesterday after major consolidation at that 65 area closes there. Just made a low, the lower end or the higher end of those closes, 65.22, got up to 65.88. Trying to knock on the door of the 66 again, Dennis. Think it can get up there today?
I think it could test it. I had a friend yesterday say never underestimate the Kramer effect, because the day before yesterday's run-up, Kramer had featured J&J saying it was a good buy, and he says never underestimate, because he has a lot of influence. And the stock actually it didn't open up that much and pulled back a bit, and it would have been a pretty good opportunity, because then it ran straight up after that. Got to that 65.88. I'm telling you, the 66 number is huge, though. You're still going to see some pretty decent resistance. If it can take out 66, then all bets are off. But I think you got to play from the short side until it takes out that 66.
Okay, and our last component to discuss this morning, Pfizer Corporation, opened up right into resistance. Wednesday's high, 21.75. Smack opened right into that, made a high at 21.80, and sold off. And now it's just been flirting with this 21.50 level, Dennis. Three lows, 21.47 to 21.52. Not doing much in the pre-market here, up a couple cents. This 21.50, I mean, if it can't hold this, Dennis, I think we can migrate down to this the lows we had back in mid-December to $21 level.
I'd use yesterday's range, 21.80 on the upside, because I see some size up there too. So if I win a rally mode, I'd probably be a seller up there. The 21.49 low from yesterday, call it 21.50. You might get some initial support, but if it cuts, Joel's right, if it cuts through and makes a new low through that 21.49 area, starts trading like 21.40, it opens up, and that's where you could eventually see a breakdown day on this. But I wouldn't be shorting until it significantly takes out that 21.50 area.
Okay, just keeping a wrap on the S&Ps here, Dennis. Very muted action, trading 70.75 above the close of 13.15 and a quarter, ahead of this GDP number coming out in just a few minutes. So we will take a quick break, and we'll be back with our market movers.